A few seconds while we get that going. So, Norm's on the bit. Norm, you're watching now. He's on the biz page. He's like, you're not live yet. He's like exactly 7:30 on the dot. All right,
All right, I sent that to you in the chat box, the link.
cool, cool. Yeah, I'll grab it here in a bit. All right, let's share this out to the group. So we got the live page up. Share to the group. This is the tough part because I'm always doing the share stuff in the beginning, and it just takes a few minutes for me to get it all done. I wish there was like a software out there that would do it for you, but not yet. Okay. All right, we are live in both the page and the group now. Let me show the video URL. All right, guys, whoever's watching, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Say you're here, say hey, say hi. If you're catching the replay on the replay, just type in replay in the comments. We have Kamanzi Constable here. I pronounced that correctly, right, Kamanzi?
Yes, you did.
All right, Kamanzi. I found out about Kamanzi. I think back in October. I got turned on to him, and I hadn't realized at the time that I read a lot of his shit before, and I just didn't put the pieces together. Kamanzi specializes in helping people. Well, he specializes in consulting with corporate companies, and he's more recently helping other people do what he does. So, Kamanzi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do now, and then we can get into the how you got started story.
I just want to address something. You said you got turned on to me, not you were turned on by me, right? I just want to make sure. So if you're watching this and you have no clue who I am, my name is Kamanzi Constable, and I started my entrepreneurial journey at 19 years old when I started a traditional offline brick and mortar business. I had a vacation relief service for independent bread owners. And at 19, I grew that business to $500,000 a year. I did it for 12 years, but the problem was I didn't understand entrepreneurship. And so I had a lot of rookie mistakes in that business. In 2011, I started being curious about this whole world of online, like making money from your laptop and being on a beach somewhere and taking pictures with nice cars and all that good stuff. And I wanted to make money while I slept. Like that was the dream right there, right? So I wrote some ebooks, and just like most authors do, I put them out there on this thing called Amazon, and I thought like somehow they would magically sell, and I didn't sell any books. So when I didn't sell any books, that's what really got me on this journey to figure out how do you build an audience, how do you make money, how do you build credentials and expertise. And so that's what I spent 2012 doing. I wrote like crazy, like I had 60 guest posts go live on various blogs. I hit the podcast circuit. I was on 80 podcasts, and I started taking some of the things that I was learning online to offline businesses. So I knew that businesses where I lived in Milwaukee were going to be far behind where anybody was going to be online. They weren't going to catch up. So I just had to know a little bit more than the next guy. So I branded myself as a social media consultant and went out there and started hitting up, kind of like Ty Lopez talks about now. If you see his videos, like I was doing that in 2012. So I started hitting up local businesses, and that year I sent out 180 proposals, and I ended up booking 36 paid gigs. So I came to the end of 2012 with a business that was doing about $5,000 a month. I sold the bread thing. I started doing this full time. And from 2012 till about 2015, I just continued to scale the business in the way that we know. I did the products and the courses and the membership websites and the summits and everything else you could think of. Come 2015, I had gotten a little bit tired of it. Like I got tired of the same all online and the same script. And I thought, I need to take what I did in 2012 with the consulting and take this into bigger companies. Because again, I knew that companies would be behind. So in 2015, I shifted my focus and pivot from mainly having like an online business to taking what I learned online and taking that into corporations. So I started pitching, I started leveraging relationships that I started leveraging the experience that I had from 2012 to 2015, where I'd done a lot of like local and national gigs. Like I had a lot of experience by that point. I had a lot of references that I could send companies to. And it just kind of took off from there. I started getting some bigger companies, and that led to some bigger companies to the point where I am today. So today I travel to about 30 countries a year for consulting gigs at several Fortune 500 companies and large multinational corporations. I was in 41 countries last year. So I did a little bit of traveling, but that's mainly how I make an income now is consulting for these large companies. I also license these companies my online courses, the courses that I used to sell online. I now license them to companies. I take on a few done for you projects and we set up training programs. And that is primarily what I do for like 90% of my time.
That's fucking awesome. Like you go from having the bread truck, it was a bread truck route, right?
Yep.
Bread truck route to hey, let me do this ebook thing and like the shiny object syndrome, what's gonna work? Got sold nothing, and then a lot of people are doing what you had done in the past with working with local businesses, and going from there to corporate consulting is a big jump, and it's something that I've talked about in the group before. Um, Even prior to just seeing how where the trends in the future is going to be in this industry is helping the big companies stay relevant, right? And there's just so much opportunity in that. A lot of people are looking for that monthly retainer, which is a nice business to have the monthly retainer. And I'm not saying you can't have that by doing the corporate consulting, but they're missing out on huge upfront payments that they can then leverage into other things. And I think that's really important for people to realize, you know? Um, but yeah, that's an amazing story. And I want to kind of drill into um, your steps. Like, how does somebody go? Like, let's just jump right into the good shit. Because I know people are gonna be like, well, I don't have any of this stuff. Like, how do I start? And you had said it was a long road. It was about a year of you just putting yourself out there. But what was that transition point from being out there doing just the regular local business to, hey, let me just start pitching companies? And how did that look?
Well, the thing to understand too, for those of you that are in the local business scene, you are building experience, you're building credentials, you're building expertise that the larger companies are going to recognize. So let's just establish that right up front because everybody wants to go into the Morgan Stanleys and the Johnson and Johnsons and they would, want to travel and they want to do all that. But that's not going to be a reality when you're starting out, right? But the local stuff that you're doing, that is going to be what gets you to the bigger stuff. So first and foremost, when it comes to how do you get here? One, you have to have a foundation established in a topic. And by that, I mean, it can't be like internet marketing because in the internet marketing space, we're taught about the need to niche. So you can go to somebody's website and somebody's a social media consultant, right? But they'll call themselves the social influence strategist. That's their new name. Or maybe they help with some personal development topics and they'll call themselves the transitional mindset mentor or something like that. You see all of these kind of new age terms that people use that they definitely stand out from everybody else. But then everybody's like, what the hell do you do? Like, I don't know what you do. And when it comes to companies, you have to realize they're farther behind the online people. So when they come and they see the social influence strategist, they're like, yeah, that's not a person we're hiring because we don't know what we would be investing in. So you have to have a foundation, so a website, a social media presence, the things that you send to your email list, all the traditional foundation in this type of a business has to be established around a clear expertise that a company would understand. If they're going to invest their time in investigating you further, if they're going to invest their money, they're going to want to see that you are an expert in your topic. And the thing that I find the most is people try to be an expert in something they're not. So let's say you are a person that has a fitness business and you use digital marketing to build your fitness business. You have to, right? All right, then you do it so well that you're like the top fitness dude and you're kicking ass and all this stuff. And then you see an opportunity for digital marketing and you go and say, hey, I'm a digital marketing consultant because look at what I use to build my fitness business. But when they come back and they look at your website, your social media presence, what are they going to see? They're going to see fitness. They're not going to see no digital marketing, even if you use it. You establish your expertise in fitness, and that's what they're going to see. So when you are working with individual clients or smaller companies, it's the foundation is not as important because you can get on the phone and convince somebody to spend money with you. When you're dealing with a corporation, they have a board of directors that everything has to go through. And they have to be able to justify the money that they're going to spend and that they're spending it on this quote unquote expert. Well, when they go back to that foundation, they don't see that expertise, you're not going to get hired. So one, you need a clear foundation in whatever your topic is, and it has to be the branding messaging has to be crystal clear. Two, you need credentials. You need credentials. You need what I call social proof. They're not going to hire any Joe off the street. I think we know that. So the little local gigs that you're doing now, and it may feel like you're kind of in the weeds a little bit, that is going to be your best friend when it comes to start getting some of the bigger stuff. Because again, a company wants a reference where they could follow up with and ask them, how did this person do? What kind of job did they do? And if you did a good job, you know that's going to work in your benefit. If they're like, this dude was shit, like don't hire them, then obviously you know what's going to happen there. So the little stuff you're doing now, it's going to pay dividends. But then also they want to see your expertise in other ways. So like doing podcast interviews would be good for you because they can listen to you and hear your expertise. Writing is also another really, or creating content more specifically. So whether it's podcast, video, or written content for some of the larger business and personal development publications, that's what's going to work in your benefit as well. So when you have the names of like, let's say Inc. and Entrepreneur and Ford and Fast Company and all these places, guess what? Those publications are read by CEOs. They're read by HR managers. They're read by small business owners. All the people that you're going to target are already consuming content in these places. So when you go and you are contributing expert level content, you're showing expertise in the places that they're already at, guess what? You are there. You're putting yourself in the best place to be found organically. But then also those names are going to carry a lot of weight with companies because these are the places they go to learn strategy. So writing for these places, contributing content, videos, I mean, all of these places are very multimedia now. So it's not just writing anymore, but contributing content these places is going to pay dividends with being found organically and then being able to put those on your website. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about you were mentioned in an article by some contributor or you paid some service to get you a line or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. That doesn't establish expertise. That shows that you were really good at getting somebody to talk about you. What they want to see is content that you've actually created, the content you've created, and they want to follow your logic and they want to see you demonstrate your expertise through the content you created. So that's a lot different than just getting a mention. Then three, or do we need to stop here for anything? I just want to make sure because I can just keep going.
Keep going.
All right, cool. Now, three, you established your foundation. You have built some social proof that shows expertise. Then it's a matter of finding the right types of companies to target. So there's a number of ways to find companies. You can drive down the street and find some companies, right? You can use your local business journal. Every city in the U.S. has a business journal, and they will list off all kinds of companies, private companies, publicly held companies. You get a really good list of companies. You can use job websites. So one of my favorite ways to book a consulting gig when you're just starting out is to use the job sites like Monster, Indeed, or even Craigslist for that matter. And you find companies that are trying to hire for an employee position. So let's say there was a company you found, let's just use Microsoft. Microsoft was trying to hire a digital marketing manager, right? That's the position they're trying to hire for. And it could be maybe nationally or it could be just be in one of their offices somewhere. And that's what they're trying to hire for. Guess what? You know that they have a need for digital marketing. And if you do digital marketing, there's a company, you know that they have the money, they have the budget to pay you, they have a need for what you teach on. So it's a matter of you then approaching them and saying, hey, I noticed that you're trying to hire for this position. Instead of hiring for this position as an employee, hire me as a consultant. And here is why you want to hire me as a consultant. And let them know it's going to be less expensive for them to drop some money on you than it will be to hire an employee that has 401k and all these benefits and health insurance and all this stuff. They can get precise deliverables with you where you say, this is what I'm going to do, X, Y, and Z. This is the result that you can get. You can get really priced deliverables. There's less risk. It's better for them all the way around. And the approach, the cherry on the cake is you could even tell them that, hey, this might not be forever. You don't have to have me come in once a month or anything like that. Use my skills and let me train your team for the next 3 months. And then after that, this will give you time to go ahead and to hire the right person for the job. So either way, this is a win-win for you. And that is the simplest way to book your first major consulting gig is to look for companies that are trying to hire an employee position.
Oh,
But
I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna jump in right now.
okay, jump
Oh,
in.
I love it, right? Couple of things, couple of really key things and some controversial things, right? You said internet marketers are taught to focus on the niche. And that's probably like one of the things that'll hold you back from consulting at big companies, right? Is it because a lot of people are like, you like said fitness, right? So like if you're the Facebook ads guy for chiropractors, good luck getting a consulting gig at a company that's not chiropractic, right?
Yeah,
Or a big company that's
yeah,
not like that. So
yeah.
when you're and maybe you could help out the audience, right? So when you're in that position of, hey, I'm doing this internet marketing thing, I'm generating leads, I'm generating business for local companies in this space. How do you make it so that your message to your local market, who you're actually making your bread and butter from, does not affect you in doing that? Like how would you recommend doing that?
I would recommend separating your platforms. So I would recommend a platform that is specifically for how you're making your bread and butter now, and then one that I like to call the all speaker and consultant platform, where it's specifically for corporations and bigger companies and people that are outside of that specific niche. So that way you can still show that you have expertise because you're killing it in what you do with your bread and butter. So you can still show it that way. But the messaging and branding on this separate platform is a bigger, broader message that's not specific to the niche.
See, that's what confused me when I first started talking. I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, how's that gonna work? Let's jump into finding these deals. And there's a couple of questions. Mackenzie's jumping because I was with Mackenzie in Tampa this past weekend, and she has an opportunity. She's got some questions for an opportunity she has, and we're gonna get into that. So bear with us, Mackenzie. But now, so like, how do you go? You already said, hey, go to Indeed, go to job sites, and it's true because I've seen companies on there that are looking for that to hire somebody. So let's get some clarity on what you can offer, because I know for you, Kamanzi, a lot of times from what I get, what I understand from your posts and when you speak, is that sometimes you're not doing any work, you're just presenting, right? So you're gonna
Yes,
go to a company. Let's
and
clarify that.
let's clarify on what consulting is in general. So
Yes.
let's even drill back because the word consulting has gotten a different meaning if you follow somebody like Frank Kern or Sam Ovens. And what they're talking about, and they're big and we see their Facebook ads everywhere, what they're talking about is essentially coaching. They're talking about booking consulting with individuals. You can book consulting with individuals. And essentially what that is you're booking coaching with individuals. But when I say the word consulting, I'm talking about going into companies and corporations and doing training. I'm not talking about doing done for you. So when I talk about social media marketing, I'm not talking about you managing the ads, you managing the social media accounts, or personal development. I'm not talking about you actually doing the work. Because technically, if you are doing the work, you are either an agency or you're a freelancer. You're not a consultant. So again, that is different. What I'm talking about is you go into the company, to the corporation, and you are training from a special, it could be 2 to 4 hours on a topic, and you're giving a one-off training. You're giving them the strategy, you are giving them the tactics and information. They are 100% responsible for the implementation. So essentially what you're doing is you're going in, you're giving workshops and you're giving trainings. These could be one-offs or it could be a series over a specified period of time. If they want more training, if they want some of the advanced stuff, that's when you have the option to like license them your online courses. And I license online courses to companies at $2,000 an employee. I used to sell these courses online where it'd be $497, $997, standard internet marketing stuff, right? When I realized that I can go to a company, license it for $2,000 employee, and they got to buy a license per employee. And with the software that we have, there's a lot of software where you can track licenses, create licenses, track users, track logins, all that good stuff. We have the software to do that. You can make sure that they're buying licenses and they're not just giving it to all their other employees. So for clarity's sake, what we're talking about is you're going in there, you're doing a workshop, you're doing a training, you're giving them the strategy. You are not tied to the results. You are not tied to the implementation. That falls on them.
Okay, that clears it up, and that's something that's really hard to swallow for a lot of digital marketers, right? For a lot of agency owners or freelancers, why would this company pay me $30,000 for me to just go talk to them? Like why? And not to have to do anything. Like that's something that I struggle with too, and that's why it's like when the deal I'm pitching right now that I'm in the process of is more of a done with you because I'm like, well, if I just talk to them, like they're not going to see a result and it might end up bad. So how do you overcome that mental block?
Well,
How does
they're not ping you for talking to them. Let's get that established. They're paying, they're paying you for strategy and tactics. So if you're going in and you're doing a digital marketing training, you are going to teach them how to set up ads or the best way to do retargeting or pixels or whatever it is that you teach and whatever your strategy is. You're going to be teaching them the strategy of how to do this, how it works together, what all of it is. What most people need to understand is how far behind most companies are. Companies are far behind. And why? Because they're doing exactly what you talked about. They're focused on their bread and butter. So that might be buying a Super Bowl ad. That might be paying some big New York agency to buy fake followers. That might be buying magazine ads. They're doing what they normally do. So for, let's say you do chatbots. How many companies do you think are using
Mackenzie,
chatbots?
Mackenzie, let's do
Yeah.
that. 'Cause Mackenzie's about
All
to
right.
jump on a
But
plane. So let me just give you her scenario. She's about to jump on a plane, and I want her to catch this so we can ask a question. So Mackenzie got offered. She's like the chatbot queen, right? Like, I'm not doing a quote to say anything insulting, but everyone's calling her the chatbot queen, right? And she's got an opportunity where a company wants to fly her and one other person out to talk about messenger bots. So I said, hey, it's a 2 day thing. So she wants to know how to price a 2 day engagement. And then I also suggested that she license her course to them as well. And her fear is that if they're bringing somebody else out, there may not be enough money in the pot. I said, hey, 2 day thing, I wouldn't do it for less than 30 grand. What do you think? What are your thoughts on a 2 day engagement, probably a workshop type scenario? How would you structure, how would you price that deal?
if she has never done a deal like this before, where it is just this is her first time, I would say that's it's probably in the price range of $20,000 to $30,000. I would say that's you're probably right in the ballpark of where you should be, and I would 100% say you should license your course at least $1,000 an employee. You
Per
should
year?
uh, per year, yeah.
There you
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. At least 1,000, if not more. Because you chatbots, messenger bots, there, I guarantee you there's one, not even a percent of companies in the world that are even utilizing that. Like the number is probably so small, it's not even funny. So your potential, your opportunity with this is going to be huge. You might want to consider going like 20 grand, so like 10 grand a day, and then 1 grand per employee to license it, just to get your feet wet, to get your feet in the door, establish your relationship with this company, and getting a reference and referral to some more business. That might be just like you're giving them the player's price because this is your first time doing it. But yeah, if it was me, it would definitely be like what you're talking about, 30 grand, licensing the courses, all that, because they have the budget. This isn't like a conference where they have to pay a number of speakers and they're going to be limited by their budget. This is a company. This is a corporation. They have the money to spend it. They will spend it. And let me tell you, Mackenzie, my story. I remember the first time I got a digital marketing consulting deal where I was going to go in, I was going to train them about the different aspects of digital marketing, give them some strategy. I went in there, I rocked it. They said, this is like some of the best stuff we heard. I'm like, oh yeah? I'm like, well, have you hired any other digital marketing consultants? And they paid me $35,000 for this. So I'm like, I'm kicking ass right here. Like I got 35 grand for like 3 hours. So like I'm good. So I asked them, I'm like, have you hired any other digital marketing consultants? They're like, yeah, we hired a guy earlier this year. He told us to buy fake followers. He told us to spam this and do this and that. It was absolutely terrible. I'm like, how much did you pay him? He's like, we paid him $105,000. And I almost fell over. And I'm like, why? And like, because he had the credentials, he had the reputation, he had all the hype behind him. So he had a really good marketing, but his strategy sucked. And from that point, though, it made me realize how much potential and how much income is in these companies and how much they're willing to pay.
And to clarify for Mackenzie, and I already answered this for her, she said that doesn't include them flying me out, etc., right?
Hell no. Oh, no. Come on, McKen. This ain't day one. No, that's extra. So the way that you can do it is you can expense it out and have them reimburse you or pay for everything. But the way that I do it is I charge a fee and then I get a travel budget. So I say my fee is 30 grand. My travel budget is 5 grand or 10 grand or whatever it is. So that way that they just give me the money and then I can book all my own stuff. The hotels that I like to stay at, the airline that I like to fly, and I can book all my own stuff. And they like it that way because they're just wire transferring two amounts into my account.
Awesome. Let's dive in a little bit into this because now I got excited about it and I want to get like what really happens. Like you've done consulting at companies all across the country and we can't mention the names of a lot of them because a lot of times there'll be an NDA associated with it, non-disclosure agreement. So they don't want Kimanzi going out and telling a bunch of internet marketers that, hey, I did consulting with this company and then they just get bombarded, right?
Hey, but to be clear, he knows what the companies are.
Yeah, I
You
have
guys
an
are
idea. I have an idea, but
yeah.
nobody's going to find out from me. But so what actually happens in these trainings? I know like you've done hundreds of these by now. So like what does this typical structure look like? I've seen in my research, people just go in and then speaking, like you said, or training, not just speaking, right? So training, I've seen workshop style. So how do you structure your say 3-hour engagement or 5-hour engagement? What does the process look like for you?
So for me specifically, I am only covering a certain number of topics. So digital marketing, the entrepreneurial mindset, and podcasting. That's primarily what I am talking about. So that's one. So if it's no matter what the presentation is, they're generally 3 to 5 hours. They are very data driven. So I'm not just telling them, hey, you need to use Facebook or Instagram, or you need to use messenger bots or whatever, because I say that they're good. I back up what I'm saying with research and I show the data. So like a digital marketing presentation, for example, I would walk them through all of the different elements of digital marketing. So email marketing, launches, social media, maybe some podcasting, paid and organic traffic, all of the different elements of digital marketing, what they are, how they work together, and a strategy to use them to start marketing their business. And I would break it all the way down for them. I would show them the data behind each of them. And then during the presentation, it's not just me speaking for 3 hours. I build in exercises, so group exercises, so that I know that they're absorbing the information, and also it gives me like a little breather. So I'll do like a lot of group exercises. And especially if you're doing personal development topics, this is great. So like one thing I talk about is the entrepreneurial mindset. How do you teach employees how to think and act like an entrepreneur, even though they have a job? So first, I'm going to hear people, I can hear the wheels turning, and people are like, well, they're going to quit their jobs. Like, you can't train on that. So that's what somebody's saying right now, I guarantee you. Here's the thing. Big companies understand something that only an entrepreneur get. The average person is deathly afraid of risk. The average person would not leave a steady paycheck and 401k and health insurance for the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. It takes a special person to want to be an entrepreneur because there's a lot of risk. So a company knows that with a training like this, if they can get their employees to think and act like an entrepreneur, they'll take more ownership of their job. They'll treat it in the way that an entrepreneur treats their business. That's going to help the company's bottom line. And there is a very minimal risk that anybody in there is actually going to quit and go be an entrepreneur because, again, people are afraid of risk. So when I do a training like that, I'm teaching them how to think and act like an entrepreneur. Well, I have to put this in action. So I'll have them stand up, get into groups of 3, and I'll have them form what their business will be. So the 3 people there have to form what their business would be. And they have to write the name and what the business does and a little mission statement and all that. And then after they've done that, I give them about 30 minutes to do that. Then I'll have people, the group stand up, talk about what their business is, what the business do, and everybody's clapping like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like, oh, that's so cute. Like, and it gets the group mentality going and it gets them to think and act like an entrepreneur. So I'll do several kind of group exercises like that. I'll get the room involved. But then when I'm giving them the training and strategy, it's very data driven and I'm backing it up. So it's not like a speech at a conference where it's all motivation. There's a little motivation, but it's all tactics. Here are the tactics. Here are the strategies you can use. And I give it to them hardcore. Like I give it all to them. Why? And I over deliver on that because again, they are going to need a lot of help with implementation. And when they do, that's when I rake it in with the online courses. And sometimes I have a team of about 8 people that work with me. We'll take on a few done-for-you projects. So like I went and I did a training at a company in Japan. And I talked about podcasting, how you can use podcasting to connect with your audience and market your business. Afterwards, they're like, hey, we want you to set up our podcast. And I'm like, well, I don't do that. Like, that's just not what I do. They're like, well, we'll pay you 45 grand. I'm like, okay, I think I could figure it out. I'll figure that out. And then I just hired a subcontractor to actually do all the work. So sometimes the company will want you to do the hands-on work. But if you are going to do that, you better be charging some money. You better be charging some real money for something like that.
Yeah, Mackenzie, charge more than 5 grand, please.
Yes, much
Mackenzie,
more.
I want to get to Miss Kenzie's question before she gets on the plane. Well, I guess we kind of covered this, but how do you reach out to find more of these companies to do consulting with? Which we kind of talked about, but go ahead
Yeah,
and like.
there you can the job sites was specifically for companies that are hiring for employee position. That's for you just when you're first starting out. But if you have done some gigs, you got some experience, then it's just a matter of finding companies that'd be the right target. There's a number of places you could do it. Inc. has a 5,000 list where they have a US list, they have a US list, and these are all companies that they've vetted. So these are good companies, these are companies that are growing, these are companies that understand investing in themselves and the employees. And you can just go through that Inc. 5,000 list, find companies that are in the sectors or that would be a good fit for what you train on, and then it's just a matter of pitching. So if you're going to pitch something that's more personal development, health and fitness, something like that, you would be pitching the human resources director. If it's going to be sales or marketing or something like that, you're going to pitch the director of sales and marketing. And it's not hard to find out who these people are. It's not hard to find their email addresses. Then it's a matter of putting together a pitch that says, shows that you've done specific research on the company. It talks about who you are and your social proof. It talks about your topic, the thing that you train on, and how it can help some company's bottom line. And then it invites them to get on a discovery call. So I tell people, don't try to sell right away in that email because they don't have any clue who you are. Like they don't know you at all. So you're giving them a warm first step. Let's get on a call and let me give you a few things that you can use right away. And in that discovery call, then that is when the deal starts to form because you're more likely to close a deal with somebody on the phone or on a video conference than you are just a cold email. So if you put together a pitch in that way, you show your clear expertise, you show how your topic helps the company's bottom line and invite them to that call. And that's how you start the process. But as far as finding the right companies, it's not hard. You can find companies in a number of different ways. And then it's a matter of sending them a really good, strong pitch. Now, what gets you the gig? It goes back to your social proof, right? The credentials that shows your expertise and any experience that you have. So if you've done all the small little local stuff, that's going to work in your favor.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's dive into let's backtrack from the big pie in the sky, the big companies, right? Let's talk about how to get your first local gigs, your first podcast, your first social proof, right? Like for me personally, I hate writing. And when I joined your program, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to write a lot. But I'm starting to do my video stuff. I'm trying to do a lot of different other stuff so that in my pitches I can say, hey, you can watch me here, listen to me here, instead of reading shit that I don't want to write. So
Well, you fucked up because for the large publications specifically, they're very multimedia. So you can go on Entrepreneur and you can watch all videos from video contributors.
So I can send my videos to Entrepreneur and do the same shit.
Yes.
Look at that.
Every
Well,
publication is multimedia. It's content. It's not writing. It's content. Some is audio, some is written, some is video. They're all multimedia. So it's not just sitting there and writing.
I'll start sending my shit over there too.
Yeah, it's content. Yeah, I mean, if you want to see somebody who does this well, check out Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes is on almost all of these publications. And if you go, what you'll see is you'll just see his show notes, his podcast player, his videos, and all these networks. He's not writing anything, right? All he's doing is taking his audio and he's taking his video and he's leveraging these platforms and he's killing and he's crushing it. So don't think it has to be sitting there writing. But to go back to the local gigs, now that he's Baldy's wasted our time, to go back to the local gigs. This is your show, right? My bad. To go back to the local gigs.
I get to do selfish things on my show.
You do get to do selfish things. With the local gigs, what you're really looking for is you're looking for companies that are owned by somebody. So you're not looking right away when you started out for the corporations. You're looking for owner-owned companies. Why? Because an owner is an individual. They're a person. Just like you would convince a coaching client to hire you or somebody online, you are talking to a person. And you can convince a person, if you have any sales skills, you can convince a person to buy from you, right? So you look for companies that are privately held, owner-owned companies, locally where you live or close to where you live, companies that make at least $20 million a year in revenue, at least. Anything smaller than that, and you're going to have a hard time closing a deal, or they're going to want you to do the actual work, and we don't want to do the actual work. They couldn't afford that. So you're looking for companies that make at least 20 million. They're owner owned, and you're making the pitch to the owner, to the owner. And the cool thing about local business is you could go into the business and make that pitch in person. You can call them up and get them on the phone, or you could email them and ask them for a meeting. Either way, that's the point of local, is you can do this face to face and you can get a quick decision. I've seen people with owner-owned companies book gigs like within a few days. They find the company that's a good target, they see the need, they go in there and they make the pitch, and boom, that owner has the ability to hire you or to write a check on the spot because it's their company.
Yeah, they don't have to go through an approval process and do all that stuff and deal with the board and all that nonsense. So find a company. 20 million is that. Less than 20 million, don't waste your time unless you want to do the work, basically,
Yeah.
right? Unless you're willing to do the work. If you're trying to step away from being the owner operator of your business and just go train and do these trainings to companies and let them implement, then 20 million is that. 20 million to what, 50 million or so?
Yep.
Privately held with the owner being in charge.
Yep.
All right.
And the thing that I don't like about the done for you model, I mean, I do like it in some circumstances, but like, let's say you do done for you ads or social media or whatever, you could tell them this more than anything. People have crazy expectations. Like they think they're going to invest, $100 and they're going to make $1 million. Like they have crazy, and sometimes there are circumstances that happen that are outside of your control. There's just too many variables when it comes to the done for you, which is what I don't like.
The biggest thing for everyone that's watching that has an agency, which is probably most of the audience, is that, and a lot of times you see this in every fucking group, is, hey, I just got 30 leads from my client, but they didn't close any of them. They didn't follow up, and now all of a sudden it's your fault because you're providing them shit, right? So now with this model, hey, they're producing their own leads and they're not following up. They're fucking it up, not you. So the buck falls on them, right? That
You're not tied to the result. And
Yeah.
then that's why I over deliver. I can give you all the strategy. You need extra training, I have some options for you. You don't want to do it? Fine. 3 months down the line, when you haven't done anything, you're going to call me back and I'm going to give you a lot higher price. And that's what happens 9 times out of 10.
That's awesome. Let's jump into check. Hold on, Chris Smith. Check your local industrial park, folks. I've landed a few local businesses doing global business with deep pockets. This works. Local industrial parks. So like the industrial centers, like yeah. So they have multiple locations. So before I jump into the speaking stuff, because I know speaking is a big part of your strategy, let's talk about. Let's just
Oh,
go.
and then one other thing, since he brought that up, another really good way to get some beginning consulting work is also city, like city contracts. So your local city, those contracts are always up for bid. The bidding process is public. You can't see what other people bid, but you can see the proposals that were submitted. And you can see the exact template they used. And with city government, they will tell you exactly how to pitch them. And it's all closed bid, but there's all kinds of contracts for each of these cities. These cities spend literally millions of dollars hiring consultants for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, the RFPs. That's a whole beast in itself.
Yep.
For those of you that are minority or women owned, you do have an advantage though.
Huge advantage.
So they have to allocate, I believe it's 30% of all contracts to minority and women business, small businesses. So you have an extra advantage if you're in those categories. And you guys can Google how to qualify and do all that stuff. You'll go down a separate rabbit hole with that. So we're not gonna talk about that too much. But yes, that's a huge opportunity. Just locally in the past few months, I know big schools like local colleges, local universities are doing it. So those are probably great ways to get started. Let's get into. I want to touch on Chris thing. He said, they have global businesses. So when you're going into these companies, a lot of people ask, how do you get international, right? Like, is there a specific step you take to travel to other countries, have them pay for you to travel to them to do those consulting gigs?
Yeah, the best way to do it when you're starting out is to look for multinational corporations. So a company that has, if this audience is probably mostly US based, so a company that has headquarters in the United States, but then they also have other offices in other countries. It's a smooth transition. You do a gig at their office here in the US, and then you give them a proposal to start hitting up some of their other offices in other countries. And if you do a good job in the US, it's going to be a smooth transition to start hitting up other countries. And that's exactly what I did when I started out. I did a company in New York, a major company in New York. They have offices in 68 countries. So after I did the gig in New York, I started saying, you really need this in this office and this, and I started looking at the places like I really wanted to go. I'm like, you need it in this country. And for a lot of them, they said, no, like we don't need that. But for three or four of them, they said, yeah, this makes sense. And I like this proposal. Then we started working out the deal. So look for multinational corporations. It's the smoothest transition.
And you said
Or
something key. You said
what
something key that a lot of people miss.
was it?
I told them they need this in these other places. You don't wait for them to ask you. A lot
Nope.
of people will wait for them to ask, oh, okay, so they have this company. Oh, they have this headquarters in Spain too, and all these other fucking countries. Let's wait for them to really love my shit. Like, how soon from when you're done with that and they're wow, do you ask for that next deal?
Right away. Right away. When I'm done with the gig, I have a proposal ready. I always ask for a meeting with the COO or the HR manager or whoever my point of contact is. I say, once I'm done, if you have like an hour after you're done, I'd love to sit down and we do like a debrief and talk about possibly working together in the future. And I do it right there on the spot.
Okay, so let's jump into that debrief. What do you ask them in the debrief? Is like just a review of what happened? What could we do better? Like, what is that for?
Yeah, stuff like that. Well, for the specifics about what can we do better and how is the training be received, I use surveys. I'll send out surveys to company, and those surveys tell me how it's going, but also other ways that I could pitch them in other areas. But specifically after the debrief, it's more so what do you feel like was the general vibe for that? Like what is on the docket for training this year? This is the opportunities that I have and some ways for us to continue working together. And it's more of that kind of a debrief. So it's more of let me use this opportunity while I have you in the room while the either is still going and you're still really excited about everything to tell you about some other options for us to work together.
And I think it's important, and you didn't say it directly, but because you're doing this debrief, you need to make, I don't want this audience to assume, but they need to make sure that the decision maker, the person who brought them in, is present, right?
Yes, yes,
So I've seen stuff like that happen, like when I've done some stuff in prior businesses where, yeah, they just stick you in the room with the people and then they disappear. The actual people that hired you disappear, and then they get the feedback from, the employees that are mixed sometimes. And so you have to make sure
yeah.
that the decision maker is watching your presentation and understands it, that it's a top-down scenario, right? You can only expect certain results if you know what the results have to be.
Exactly. And sometimes those people are very busy, so you might not get a meeting, excuse me, you might not get a meeting right there on the spot, but you can set up a dinner or a lunch or something on another day, especially if you're in another country.
Yeah, extend the stay.
Yeah. Well, whenever I go to another country, I always give myself like at least 4 days, if not more, in that country for that very reason. So I'll set up a lot of meetings with different people in the company, and I'll also, depending on my relationship with that company and that person, I'll ask them, hey, are there other business owners that you could possibly get us together for a lunch or a dinner that I could talk to and meet? And I've met and gotten a lot of gigs that way just from referrals from the person that I went there for. Like, set me up, hook me up, set me up with all these meetings. And I was in London and Paris last week doing some consulting gigs. That's exactly what I did. My schedule was stacked with meetings with all kinds of other business owners.
No, that's important. And a lot of people overlook referrals, even for their agency. Like, for example, I got a phone call Saturday from a client of mine saying, "Hey, what can you do for me as far as some type of payment if I bring you 20 people, and can you handle 20 people?" I'm like, I can handle whoever you send
Yep.
me.
Show me the money.
Right? So yeah, that's something that a lot of people overlook. Make sure you're only gonna get what you ask for, and then a lot of people are afraid to ask, and they're just waiting to be offered something. And I think it's the wrong way to do it. I've been victim to it. I'm sure you have. Of like, oh yeah, but you gotta just get out of that. But let's dive into the speaking, right? So how does speaking benefit you? First of all, like what kind of speaking can you do? How does that benefit you in your personal brand as far as getting these other gigs? And what kind of opportunities are out there for it?
Yeah, when it comes to consulting, essentially what you're doing is you're training, you are going to be doing a lot of speaking. So when you have done speaking gigs, that also is another form of social proof, and that will also help because they'll be able to hear you articulate and see the way you move and see your presence and then hear you talk about your topic. That also is a form of social proof. And speaking is great. It can put some money in your pocket. It could help you travel. You can sell stuff in the back of the room. You can sell stuff from stage. I prefer consulting because companies are not going to be limited by their budget in the same way that a conference is. But speaking is some people's jam. They'd rather do that. So you got to go with what works for you. But the cool thing is you can book speaking gigs all over the world at events, conferences all over the world. One way, if you have one thing that you should do is if you've never spoken before, start with your local area, start hitting up your meetups because if you go on meetup.com, there's all kinds of events happening where you live on your topic. And those are easy to get into. It's a matter of going to the organizer and saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I talk about. If you're not a quack, they're likely to have you come in. And those are not going to be paid, but it is going to help you get some experience. It's going to help you get some video of yourself speaking and some testimonials. You could look at your local Rotary clubs and Chamber of Commerces. The thing that I like about those is that you are speaking to business owners. So you go in there and talk about your Facebook ads or digital marketing or whatever, you can walk away with some business or you can walk away with some other opportunities. When you want to start getting into the paid stuff, the actual stuff that'll pay you, I'm going to give you one area that people overlook. And one area is multi-level marketing and network marketing. So multi-level marketing, network marketing, there's like a different kind of rap, right? Some people say it's a Ponzi scheme and scam. Some people have become
If you're in
millionaires
it,
off
you
of it.
love it. If you're not in it, you're like, yo, these fucking guys are crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, but here's the thing. They have a lot of money, right? There's just a lot of money. If you looked at what a lot of these organizations are making, it's billions of dollars. But more than that, they have events that are local, national, and international. They're holding these events all the time. Large distributors that have a lot of people in their downline, they'll hold events all the time. And they buy lots of books and they bring in speakers every month. And you, as an entrepreneur, you can pitch them. You can pitch either locally, nationally, or internationally these multi-level marketing and direct marketing organizations. I've had graduates, as you know, I've had graduates that taught Facebook groups, and then they'll go to like isogenic groups or Beachbody groups, and they'll teach them how to use Facebook groups to get more people into their thing, right? And I've had people that teach personal development topics like leadership or productivity or whatever, and they'll go to these organizations and teach them this is how you use productivity to sell more and to get more accomplished or whatever. But there's a lot of money in these organizations, and you can pitch these organizations like crazy. There's somebody that has put together a list of the organizations where you live. They put a list of organizations nationally and internationally, and it's just a matter of finding out who is in charge, who's the organizer, and sending them a well-constructed pitch.
Yeah, and so let's talk about, you did kind of structure the pitch earlier, but let's clarify, like, is the pitch similar for or very different for all these different types of
No,
engagements?
it's pretty similar. You always want to show that you have done research. So you want to make it feel like it's not just a form thing that you're sending out to a bunch of people. And I think all of us have got that one where it's like the name is big in a different font, and then underneath it's like a small font, like you're just sending this to everybody.
Yeah.
That's what you don't want to fill because that's what everybody else is going to do. Show that you've done some research. So like, let's say their event won an award. So say, hey, multi-level marketer, congratulations on winning the John Young Award for multi-level marketing. You're obviously crushing it. I'm extremely impressed with your motto that you have to climb a mountain to find the peak. Like, you just want to show that you have actually done some research, so that it doesn't look like it's a foreign thing. And kissing butt always helps. Everybody has an ego, right? So we all like our ego stroked from time to time. So you stroke a little ego, it's not going to be a bad thing for you. But show them that you've done some research, stroke a little ego, and then talk about who you are and why you're an expert. Don't just say, hey, I would be a good speaker. say I would be a good speaker because I've spoken before, because you can see my content here, because you can listen to me on this podcast, because one time President Obama tweeted my tweet, whatever it is, like, whatever you got
Don't
as,
happen if Trump retweeted you, you might want to avoid that because there's consequences.
yeah, whether or not they like it, you never know because people either love or hate them. So you don't want to even go there. But you want to show that you are an actual expert. Talk about your topic again. Why would this topic or what you would talk about at a conference, what would you talk about? Why would it be appealing to their audience? And then what separates you from other speakers? Make it clear that when you train, this is going to be practical and tangible. It's not going to be inspirational and get people pumped up, but they're not going to have strategy. That's what most speakers do. Let them know they're going to get straight up hardcore tactics. And then, and again, invite them to have a call with you because it's going to be very hard to sell it in that first email. They don't have any clue who you are. So I'm always a fan of a warm first step, getting them on the phone, getting them on a video chat because it's a lot easier to close a deal that way.
Awesome, awesome. Let's jump in and let's find out a little bit more about your program, Kamanzi. You have a program. It's called Get Booked, and you open it and close it. I know you don't really this is not your bread and butter. You do this because people ask you for it, right? So talk about your program, what it is, what's included, and then we'll post a link to see if people want to reach out to you separately on it.
Yeah, Get Booked is I make 90% of my income from speaking, consulting, licensing courses. I also am the author of 4 books. I get some royalties. There's a lot of different ways I make an income. But as I really started to do this and travel and talk about this a little bit, everybody and their mother was like, I want to know how to do this. And I was like, I'm not going to teach this for free. So Get Booked is my program. It's the only program that I offer online. I don't offer anything else. I don't have a membership website. I don't have any other courses. I don't have nothing else. This is it. It's just Get Booked. It's one program that teaches somebody how to become a highly paid speaker and consultant. Our man here, the host, is a part of that program. So, he could tell you if you had private questions, he could tell you about it. But it's a program that's all tactics, it's all strategy, and it's going to tell you how to do everything that we've talked about very step by step. It only opens and closes like 3 or 4 times a year because I don't have to do this, so I don't. And I would say it's a really good program. 40 of the graduates have booked over $650,000 worth of consulting contracts in 44 countries. So it's produced a few results.
No, yeah, definitely. And one of the reasons why it appealed to me was because, and a lot of you guys watching, that all the ads, all the Facebook ads you see, it's all kind of like the same recycled shit, right? Yes, that stuff works. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about running an agency and that stuff because I have an agency. So yes, I know you can make money. What I'm looking at is, hey, where's that bigger picture, right? Where is that? Yeah, sure, I can charge somebody $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and do a lot of those. Or, what appealed to me most was, hey, these companies out there would pay me $50,000 for me to go and just show them this stuff, right? And that's really what kind of got to me. I know a lot of people like that monthly recurring revenue, which I do as well, but you can do a lot with upfront payments, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. You can do a lot of great things with that money, and that's really what appealed to me. And then Kamanzi just coming out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere. He's out of Social Proof, but it wasn't really targeted to me. And just coming and saying, hey, a consultant doesn't necessarily need to do the work for the company. You can actually book bigger deals and get bigger deals. That's what really appealed to me. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them now while we got them. Kamanzi, anything else people should know that you feel is important to know about booking consulting gigs at companies that we may have not touched on?
Yes, I would say it's more mindset than anything else because a lot of people are listening to this, or some people are listening to this and saying, how am I going to book a gig with these large corporations? Or what am I going to teach that they don't already know? Like, that's the number one thing I hear. They already know this. They have somebody on staff that does this. And the answer is no, they don't. Or even if they do, that person doesn't know as much as you do. You have to realize how far behind companies are. I remember the first training I gave on digital marketing, and I said, you have to have an opt-in. And somebody raised their hand. They're like, what is an opt-in? and I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna be rich. Like,
There's
you,
there's CMOs out there, chief marketing officers, that don't know what an autoresponder is, right? So
nope.
they're out there.
Companies are they're doing what they know how to do, and technology moves fast, the market moves very fast, strategies move very fast. I mean, you guys remember when people were talking about Snapchat was like the next big thing, right? And then it was Facebook Live, and then it was Messenger bots, and then it's, it moves fast. It moves very fast. And so for a company, they can't move at the speed that we are moving. So instead of them slowing down what they're doing and stopping what makes them their bread and butter, they bring in a consultant to catch them up to speed. So if you're thinking they already have somebody there that could do it, or I'm not good enough, or whatever, that's imposter syndrome, and you got to call it what it is.
I wanna touch on that because even like me personally, like I know my shit on certain things, but then there's some people out there that are like, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay at this stuff, but how am I gonna know if I'm better than these things? Like, um, what what do you say to that? Like you just kind of answered it, but it's really something that's true. Like, what if I go in there and it bombs? Like, what are those kinds of like what's those scenarios? How does that like play with your mind?
Yeah, you don't have to be better than anybody else. You just have to be the best you, right? And if you feel like you're an imposter, what does that mean? Then if you feel like you don't know enough on your topic, go get some more education. Go learn more strategies.
Does that
But
mean you
when
need to have done it? So that's another question people are going to ask. Well, what if I want to speak about, Facebook ads, right? I've done a few ads here and there. I know more than the next guy. You know more than the average person in that company already, and I know it. But like, what happens when you're there? Like, what if you like haven't done, ads for like a company with 50 locations? Like,
you
how
just
does
do it anyways. You do it anyways. You do it
just do
seriously.
it?
You
Just gotta
do it
go out with
anyways.
confidence, right?
You
Just gotta
do
go
it
out.
anyways because you know what? If you go in there and you bomb, you go in there and you bomb, and you've learned a lesson and you learn something that you can take and do better next time. But you never will know what's possible. You'll never know what you do unless you try. That's the only way to do it is to go out there and do it anyways. And you send out those pitches. And if you send out those pitches and you're talking about certain things in that pitch, and the company says, well, we're a little bit more advanced than that. Well, there you go. You know, right? But most companies aren't going to say that because they're not there. So the only way to do it is to actually do it, to send out those pitches, to go out there, to do the gigs, to get the experience and get better at your craft. You're only an imposter is if you accept that that's where you are. If you say, I'm an imposter and you just stay there, you are an imposter. But if you say, no, I'm not an imposter, I may not be the expert, but I do know what I'm talking about and I'm going to confidently go in there and I'm going to do this, you're not an imposter. Action beats imposter syndrome.
Yeah, guys. Look on the job boards, find companies that need help, type up your pitch, research the company, and send it out. I'll give you guys an example of a company that's behind on the times and that publicly posted it out there. 1-800-Flowers.com up until about a month and a half ago was hiring for somebody that understood the Facebook pixel and UTMs. A company that has .com in their company name did not have a Facebook pixel to retarget their audiences, guys. So that's those are the kind of opportunities that are out there. There's companies out there. The staff, you have to understand, a lot of the stuff in this world, and like you see it a lot, Kamanzi, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the training out there that like course creators are making, like there's a lot of guys selling courses that have a lot of stuff in there that is not common knowledge to the employee of a company.
Not at all.
You're not being targeted. Like you're seeing all this stuff, like Facebook ads course, like learn how to fucking make whatever by doing simple ads, whatever the fuck it is. You're seeing all this stuff. You're going through the training. You know how to do it, right? The people that work at these companies are not being targeted by those ads for the most part. Like they're not the target audience, so they're not going to know more than you. And that's where I wanted to leave it on my end. Kamanzi, any final words?
No, you're spot on. They're not targeted. They don't know it. They're not seeing the ads. You could go into any company and ask them who Pat Flynn is, asking them who John Lee Dumas is, who Nicholas Coolidge is, who Frank Kern is, and they're going to look at you blank and be like, who are those guys?
Yeah.
We know who they are. We're hit up with them all day long. We see it, but it doesn't translate into the regular mainstream business space. Do they know who Elon Musk is or Richard Branson? Absolutely,
Yes.
right? But they don't know as much as we know, and they're not seeing what we see every day.
That's awesome. Guys, if you want to find out more about Kamanzi's program, Get Booked, there is a link below the video. Kamanzi does not have a standard order form. I believe you have to email him, right?
Yep.
So
Because
Kamanzi,
I don't let everybody in. I don't let everybody take the program.
yeah,
I actually have a filtering process and a screening process because I don't just want anybody to join and get in there and not do anything with it. I don't want somebody to join if they can't afford it. So like if you're going to stretch yourself financially, I'm going to tell you not to join. I only let somebody join that I feel like is going to be ready because I have a really good result. I have people that are really doing stuff. And that's who I want in there. I want the people to join that this is right for, that it's going to be the right fit for me. It's going to be the right fit for you. But more than anything, you're going to get the most value from this. Because again, this is not how I make an income. So not everybody can join.
awesome. Guys, if you have any questions for Kamanzi, I'll add you to the group if that's cool. And then
Yep.
just tag you. If you have any questions for Kamanzi after, go ahead and just reply and tag him in the post. And he's on Facebook frequently enough where I'm sure he'll get to you. So, yeah, and his program closes this Friday, I believe.
Sunday.
This Sunday. This Sunday. So if you guys are on the fence, or just reach out to him, or even reach out to me and ask me, hey, if this is right for you. I wouldn't send you to somebody, as you guys know, we don't monetize this group really, so I wouldn't send you to somebody if I didn't feel it was right for you. So if you want to reach out to me and ask me questions about it, I'll let you know before you waste any time or money.
Yeah, and if this isn't right for you, that's totally cool too. I put out a lot of free content, like tons of free content on all the strategy stuff with this.
Guys, his free content, like literally just this video, you could go and pitch a company, and probably close a deal just by just the stuff he said. How to do this, where to go find them, what to put in your email, get on a call. Sure, you may not have the templates and all that stuff, but I mean, there's enough out there where you can produce a result. And then his actual posts on Facebook, his public posts, will give you really key insight on, what companies are hiring. Sometimes you put what companies are hiring or, hey, these companies are doing that. I don't know if that's private or it's public,
It's
but
public.
yeah. So you'll publicly put, hey, this company is looking for this fucking person to do this thing. And then I guarantee you not many people email
I guarantee it.
them.
I put the contact person, I put the email, I put the company, I put all the information, and I would be shocked how many people actually send out those emails.
You should put your email address or like another email address just to see if it happens.
Yeah, just to see. That's good.
Awesome.
That's actually really good. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, just try that. Just curious to see. Awesome, guys. So yeah, Kamanzi will be added to the group. Business Not Bullshit. Leave your comment. Tag him with any questions. Check out the link. Reach out to me or Kamanzi if you have any questions about the program or any questions about this whole process in general. Kamanzi really is open and shares a lot more information than most people don't share. And it's really just a different way to do consulting, a different type of consulting that's not really talked about in the internet marketing space. That's what really excites me about it. So guys, ask questions now. Last chance. Nice balls. Always great content from you and your guests. Jumped on. I'll catch the replay. All right, Matt. Yeah, check out the replay. Ask questions. You're gonna love this call. Guys, thanks for having us, Kamanzi. Thanks for being on here.
Let's do that on video. So bye, guys. Mr. Bear says bye. Bye.
Take care.
And now they're gonna be like, yeah, this guy's a psycho.